It's been an interesting last few days for Syracuse University fans, especially this Syracuse fan. First of all, probably everybody saw what happened on Saturday. Boy, did the Orange men's team crash with a thud in the NIT. A very disappointing end to what was really a disappointing season. How could you let some guys from south of the Mason-Dixon line come up here and beat us on our own floor? And there was no defense against their three-point shooters. It was like they could hit those three-pointers at will. But whatever. Either if you call them Ole Miss, or as I like to say them, Mississippi, you let those rebels come up here and run us off of our own floor. Of course, it was a close game, but this is the Carrier Dome court. This is Jim Boeheim court. I mean, what the hell? Very disappointing way to end the season, guys. And you know what? This is really a season where I have to question the way you played. You guys were supposedly maybe set up to make another run towards the Final Four like last year. But ultimately, it was your inconsistency that brought you down. That wasn't Syracuse basketball this year. And I'm just wondering going forward what's going to happen. Because, of course, a day later, Mike Hopkins, the head coaching designate, who was supposed to take over after next year, decides he's going to leave to take the head coaching job for Washington. Yes, he's heading out west, young man, and of course, he's got connections because Mike Hopkins is from the West Coast. But as long as he's been with the program, either as a player and as the assistant coach and as the head coaching designate, he's got the connections for both here and for the West Coast. But whatever, I do give Mike Hopkins good luck. And I hope that Syracuse and Washington do schedule each other for future schedules. But of course, the big news is Boeheim is staying on for at least a few years. Of course, that whole thing 2 years ago reeked of a witch hunt. Yes, the NCAA with instituting all of those regulations on the Orange program. Of course, part of me thinks Boeheim that trusted the wrong people to do the right things by his students. Well, whatever. The NCAA has long had a very animosity-filled relationship with Boeheim, so they decided to come down on him for this. Of course, you see, 109 wins vacated, and of course, the whole rigmarole. But now, because Hopkins has gone to Washington, yes, they decided to keep continuity going, which I think was the right thing, because you know what? I think Boeheim was forced to put this date in. And I believe Boeheim is one who's earned the right to retire on his own terms. That's the way I feel. Heck, if he's almost 80 years old and he's still coaching, which would be in about 8 years, more kudos to him. Because, hey, John Gagliardi coached into his late 80s when he coached the St. John's, Minnesota football team. As long as Boeheim's physically able and everything, why not? Of course, I'd like to see him enjoy some of his years too, but whatever. Continuity's the way. But also, the news that Tyler Lydon may be bolting to the NBA is kind of troubling. Personally, I think Lydon regressed, but of course they project him as a late first-round pick. But whatever, you get these ideas into young people's heads. Hey, they want to say, hey, let's test the waters. Hey, why do I need to stay here 4 years? I think some of these guys could have gotten a little more seasoning, a la Malachi Richardson and others. But whatever, it looks like Tyler Lydon may be taking his talents to the NBA, but truthfully, I don't think he's ready. But I do have to give some congratulations to the Orange women's team with a good first round win over Iowa State. But of course, there was the buzzsaw that Gino Auriemma and UConn was waiting for him. And as much as Quentin Hillsman and the girls gave some pretty good effort against him, hey, when you got David going against Goliath, you know what happens. Well, of course, David slew Goliath, but boy, Gino Auriemma and his girls just seem to be Goliath personified. Even though the Orange women's team gave an effort, they still lost by 30 points. What's it going to take to bring down the UConn women's team? I don't know, but that Italian immigrant who coaches them has turned them into probably one of the best programs ever. But all in all, an interesting few days up on University Hill, if you ask me. Of course, let's go locally. The South Seneca girls team was going for their second straight state championship. And of course, this is mostly the same bunch of girls that got there last year, and the same coach, who's known for wearing funky high heels. But of course, South Seneca won their sectional title, and they made it to the state Final Four, only to go down. But you know, that's a hell of an accomplishment to the Lady Falcons. Good job. But I do have to give kudos to sort of a local team. Watkins Glen made it to the state final, and they wound up winning the state championship. Good job to the Senecas of Watkins Glen. Of course, I didn't quite know what their nickname was until a couple of days ago. I kind of thought maybe they'd be the Watkins Glen Checkered Flags. Who knows? But somebody did wave the checkered flag and say, "Good job, state champions." Now, I mean, let's hope next year that maybe Minders can maybe get there, do like they did 25 years ago. Well, of course, that's wishful thinking. But anyways, good job, South Seneca. Good job, Watkins Glen. But I do have to say about another sports story. Big deal. Seems as though they found the stolen game jersey of Tom Brady from Super Bowl 51, along with Von Miller's helmet from Super Bowl 50 and Brady's jersey from Super Bowl 49. The big deal about it is, why'd they waste all those resources? You know what? The FBI's got more pressing needs than finding the Super Bowl jersey of Tom Brady. Of course, he is a big hero and everything. You know what this Bills fan says? Big deal. Of course, you know what I'd like to do? This is a prized possession. But you know what? If I ever got my hands on Brady's two jerseys, you know, let's have a nice bonfire. That's what I do with them. Of course, they've got this thing, what's going to happen to that Mexican journalist? I don't know. Of course, they say those jerseys are worth $500,000. Of course, they cost $200 to make. Is it going to be a misdemeanor or is it going to be a felony? Well, you know what? It was a felony to have this investigation in the first place. That's what I want to say about this whole thing. Big deal. And of course, last night from Dancing with the Stars, you know what Charl would say, of course, because she likes to argue, she might want to do a coochie on something. And of course, Mr. T would say, "I'll pity the fool that wears a Tom Brady jersey, and I will destroy any man that tries to wear one." Well, that's how I'm going to end my show this week. Interesting going-ons on University Hill and everything else. See you next week.